Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, smash the like button on the way in. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And what we have in the box today is neither sharp nor shiny, but it is a piece of EDC gear from Mech Army. Thank you to Mech Army for sending this in for review. Now, initially, when I saw this, I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to review it or not. And the reason is because I wasn't sure if it was something that I would need. And then I started to mess around with it and I realized, you know what? This is actually pretty dang cool. So for starters, the company's name is Mech Army, and this product is the EH4 carabiner, and it's available on Kickstarter. I'll make sure to drop a link in the description down below. That's not an affiliate link. I don't get anything if you buy it, but if you decide that you want one, you can get this in a couple different configurations. But before we talk about that, I wanted to talk about what exactly this is and why I was surprised at how useful it actually is. So for starters, yes, it is a titanium carabiner. You can also get this in aluminum or in stainless steel as well. They have different options depending upon how much you want to pledge. Now, I know that Kickstarters can be a little up in the air sometimes. This one is already fully funded, and the Kickstarter itself is ending here within the next 3 or 4 days. So if you want to get in on it, I would say that go ahead and act on it now. If you pledge $49, you can get the aluminum version of this with the titanium keyring. If you pledge $59, you can get it in stainless steel. And if you want this in titanium, you can get this by pledging $69. Now, personally, I am a bit of a sucker for titanium. I have a lot of gear in titanium, lots of pry bars and knives, so on and so forth. So for me, I definitely think that the way to go would be the titanium. But if you don't want to spend that much, you can still get all the useful features of this regardless. Now, the EH4 has a couple primary functions. The first thing is that it is a carabiner. Now, I'm not one of those people that uses something like a key bar. I actually usually use a carabiner to attach my keys. This is my current carabiner. This is a cheapo $15 carabiner from Amazon that I picked up a couple years ago. And when I got it, I thought it was cool because it had this little flint striker and it had a bottle opener, but it hasn't really held up all that well. As you can tell, the bottle opener has fell off, and then of course the flint on the striker has kind of worn down as well. So I don't really have a whole lot of purpose for this anymore other than to hold my keys. So something like this is actually a really great option because it gives me a nice piece of premium titanium that I can attach my keys to, but at the same time I also get a 2-inch ruler scale and not one but 2 different ways to use this as a bit driver. If you check the side, you'll see that it actually pops open and it contains 3 bits, but each of these bits is double-sided. So effectively from the get, you get 6 different bits. You get T6, T8, you get a Phillips and a flathead. And then of course you also get the H1.5 and H2 bits, which actually works well for taking apart something like a Chris Reeves Sebenza. So 6 bits in total. And of course you can also swap these out with other 4mm bits as well. So if you have some 4mm bits lying around and you want to swap something out, you can absolutely do that. It's entirely up to you, but they are housed right here within the case of this carabiner. As a knife enthusiast, I'm always taking my knives apart, putting them back together, taking them with me. So the most common bit that I would probably use is going to be this T8 or T6 bit. So if I wanted to decide to take apart or maintenance this Vosteed Mini Labrador while I'm out and on the go, I could 100% do it. And I have a couple of options here. You can either pop it into this spot right here, and it has some good retention. That bit is not going to fall out or shake loose. That's nice. Or if I wanted to switch it up, I could also use that driver like this. And so I could, in fact, use it as a retention piece as well. So if you have a knife that has a non-captive pivot and you need to hold one of the sides of the pivots in, this would actually work rather well for this. Personally, I see myself using this driver piece right here the most. And if I wanted to do that, here's how that would work. You just go ahead and pop that in. And then of course, from here, you can take your knife apart. This one has a T8 pivot. I've been using this T6 head. We'll go ahead and swap that around. One of the nice things about these double-sided pivots is the fact that, especially when you have a T6 T8 combo, you can go ahead and switch pretty easily without having to dig in your drawer for extra bits. And especially if you're out camping or if you're out hiking and you need to service your knife, it's really nice to be able to have everything right here in one, especially considering that you can customize the different bit storage options within the carabiner itself. Boom, and just like that, we've got this knife apart and ready to maintenance. And in case you were wondering, these bits are in fact magnetic. But guys, I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh wow, is Rollshambo making a mountain out of a molehill here? Absolutely not. I completely understand that if you're sitting at home in front of your computer or in front of your TV and you're taking stuff apart, this might not be the ideal driver. In fact, I would go ahead and say that if that's your use case scenario and you're just looking at this for the bit driver to use while you're at home, this is not necessarily what that's meant for. What makes this really cool is the fact that it's also a carabiner. You see, I also have another multi-tool that I use quite often, and that is the Pry 2. And this one also has some great features like a ruler, and it also has a bit driver, and it also has a pry bar, and that's great. But the issue that I have with this one is that it always takes up real estate in my pocket when I want to carry other things. So what makes this really enjoyable is because, especially since I'm going to be putting my keys on this carabiner, it's not going to be taking up any pocket real estate since I'm just going to go ahead and clip it onto a belt loop. Also, this would be great in a camping environment, especially if you need something that has a straight edge and maybe you need to draw a quick line, maybe you need to measure a few inches. You could go ahead and clip this to your gear rather easily. And the fact that it's not going to be taking up any real estate since it's meant to be clipped onto stuff is actually really attractive. Personally, I think that starting off at $49, this is an absolute win. If it was me, of course, I would go ahead and pick up the titanium version because that's just the way that I roll. I prefer titanium, but if you don't necessarily care about whether it's titanium or steel or aluminum, you could of course pick up one of the other ones as well. But definitely don't wait on this, guys, because the Kickstarter for this is ending soon. They did fund the deal. It is fully funded, so once it ends, it's gone, and your chances to grab one will run out. But I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on the Mech Army EH4. Do you think that this could be something that would be great to have with you when you go camping? Is it something that you would love to switch to your key ring so you could take it with you on a daily basis and have a few extra tools when you need it? And if you had an opportunity to change one thing about it, what would you change? What would you add? What would you take away? Let's have that conversation in the comment section down below. And by the way, guys, if you want to watch more awesome knife and EDC content, make sure to click on one of the videos that pops up next.